Kun Dick and Kun Fred, since leaving the ASEAN Secretariat 2 years ago, I have not been invited to any ASEAN summit. I feel comforted by the fact that you have invited me to your summit. And for 5 years at ASEAN, I was looking for a tool and an instrument to bring ASEAN to the world. And I found the secret today, Muay Thai. I have been invited to YPO, WTO, WPOs many times. But I thought YPO is an organization of young and restless CEOs. And for WTO, for people, I would say, the world of retired people who refused to fade away. But they are still very valuable for all of us, particularly for this region, for ASEAN. I think the minister has made it clear this morning and reiterated the dreams of our founding fathers since 1967, when they met here in Bangkok on the 8th of August in 1967, and they pledged themselves together with sacrifices, they said, with cooperation, we are bonded together in order to bring prosperity and peace to our peoples and our posterity. 43 years on, this dream is still very much alive. But their dream will have to be passed on to your generation. And that is the message, the first message for you today. For a long, long time, ASEAN has been the work of the leaders and of the diplomats. From now on, the private sector has to get in and has to roll up your sleeves and do the job. This house, this architecture has been built for you and your generation. The founders have passed away. Only one still remaining, and that's the former foreign minister of Thailand, the host of that very, very important meeting 43 years ago, Dr. Tanat Korman. But through the years, leaders have perfected that dream, and they are looking at the potentiality of the region from 5 to 6 to 10, from less than 200 million to 600 plus million now, from backward economies to a combined GDP of 2.5 trillion today, bigger than that of Korea, in fact equal to that of the UK. And we are weaving bigger architecture together. Not only 10 of us, but the 6 around us, China, Japan, Korea, India, Australia, New Zealand, the combined GDP of these 16 countries are going to be almost equal to that of the US entire. Of course, the population here is bigger. Of course, the per capita income is lower. But just imagine the potentiality of it. And we have made the legal infrastructure for all of you to benefit. We have had free trade agreement with Japan, China, Korea, with India, Australia, and New Zealand. And we are working to perfect that architecture called RCEP, ASEAN Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, by the end of this year too, when we go into that economic community. So, the world has seen and is very much convinced of this promise here on this landscape. That's why last year, 122 billion US dollars foreign direct investment has come into ASEAN. And more will be coming next year. The challenge is how to make the best use of that 122, 130, 150 billion US dollars in the next few years. We need to prepare our landscape. An ASEAN economic community has 4 important pillars. The first one is one integrated market. We've been working on that. And it is coming through, but it still needs a lot of work to be done. The second one, we need to be competitive with the rest of the world. The reason for the economic community coming in, because we have experienced the difficulty of attracting foreign direct investment back in the late 80s and the early 90s, because China opened up, because India was opening up. Oxygen of foreign direct investment had been vacuumed out of the region. We need to prepare our landscape to make it competitive with the rest of the world, particularly in this region, China and India. And then we need to be equitable among ourselves. 120 billion coming into ASEAN, it has not come in equally to the rest of ASEAN. It came into some selected members of ASEAN. All those members who are still lagging behind need to be assisted to rise up, to measure up to the opportunities, to the challenges of ASEAN, to the expectation of the world. And we are working on that equitable ASEAN. And the fourth pillar is to make sure that our internal structure, domestic structure, rules and regulations, and the combined ASEAN structure and rule and regulation shall help us be integrated to the rest of the global economic community, global network, seamlessly. And we are working on all those pillars. ASEAN now is at the core of that new growth center of the world. You know that. Our growth average for this year, all ASEAN, is 5.6%. That's better than many parts of the world. And we do expect that this growth will continue, that by the year 2030, there will be growth that would be redistributed in the region, that would strengthen this core center of the new locomotive of growth of the world here in Southeast Asia. We have been the fulcrum of power plays in the region, and we will continue to play that role. And I do hope that from now onward, you will come in more actively participating in this enterprise of ASEAN. But with all those potentials, let me be candid. ASEAN needs stronger leadership among ourselves. In the past, there were towering personalities and leaders, such as Mr. Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore, such as Mr. Suharto of Indonesia, such as Mr. Mahathir of Malaysia. We are not going to have those towering leadership anymore into the future. But what we can compensate with their vision and their staying power would be improving upon our own efficiency inside each of the member states. We need more transparency. We need less corruption. We need efficiency in our bureaucracy. We need new technology, new innovation, more investment in our technology, in our science, in our innovation. Otherwise, the entire landscape of ASEAN is going to risk being caught in this, what is called the middle income trap. Middle income trap means you will never get over 10,000 US dollars per capita. And only 3 countries have made it in ASEAN: Singapore, Brunei, very special and unique economy, and then Malaysia. The rest are below. Thailand is somewhere about 7,000 US dollars per head. The rest are lower than Thailand. Without investment, without technology, without investment in technology, in science, in research, in development, in innovation, we are not going to get out of this middle income trap. It's a risk that all ASEAN is now facing. The other challenge that we have is that our SMEs are not crossing borders. We heard this morning that SMEs accounts for 70–75% of our GDP nationally. In Thailand alone, 2 million SMEs. But we are not crossing borders in order to fill up that landscape that is being opened up for us. I'm not worried about the big one. I'm not worried about Banpu, Phong Kun Isra. I'm not worried about, big companies in Thailand like CP, but I'm worried about small and medium-sized enterprises that need to fill up the space in order to make this landscape equitable, this landscape equal, this landscape leveled, so that 600 million plus can benefit from this enterprise called ASEAN. And then we need to make sure that this landscape is connected. That's ASEAN Connectivity Plan. We need to invest in every country, member state of ASEAN, and we need to join those projects so that when we prosper, when we produce, when we have services, we will be able to deliver the goods and the services and the people to where the services are, to where the productions are. ASEAN Economic Community, ASEAN community will not succeed unless we have the connectivity plan. In Thailand alone, 2.5 trillion baht is being projected for infrastructure alone. And if Thailand fails to deliver, the entire landscape of ASEAN will not benefit from that connectivity plan, regardless of other member states delivering on their promise. Why? Because this is the center of ASEAN, connected with everyone, east and west, north and south. The minister was talking about that very issue, north-south corridor, east-west corridor. This Thailand has to deliver. And I do hope that under this special circumstance of Thailand now, hard decisions have to be made. Difficult decisions have to be made. Because for a long time, the founding member of ASEAN, Thailand, has become less active in promoting ASEAN because we could not make decisions. Because the political circumstances have not allowed us to make quick decisions. This, I hope, will have to change. This, I hope, will transform the leadership here, at least temporarily, and make difficult decisions for all of us in order to capitalize on the potential, on the opportunity that are opening up to us. The pendulum has swung to East Asia. In October 2008, there was the Asia-Europe Summit meeting in Beijing. 48 countries and leaders from Europe and from Asia came together, where? In the Great Hall of the People of China, the seat of the Communist Party. When people from Europe, the like of Sarkozy, the like of Merkel, the like of Berlusconi, the like of Barroso, appeal to China, appeal to all of us, please keep it going, please keep importing, please keep consuming our goods and our products. To the point where British Foreign Minister took me aside and said, Mr. Secretary General, this is a very strange summit indeed. I said, how strange? He said, we from the West, open market, came to East Asia. In the Great Hall of the People of China, we appeal for help. That's when I realized that the pendulum has swung east. The challenge for all of us in East Asia is how to keep it east. And how to make sure that we grow, how to make sure that we prosper, how to make sure that we are stable, how to make sure that we are secure in order to serve as that engine of growth for the rest of the global economy. It is not beyond our capability, and it is definitely within the realm of possibility of all of us. But let me say this, unless and until the young and the restless, yourself, would come in and roll up your sleeves and get involved in this major enterprise, the dream of the founding father shall remain the dream. Much like Nat King Cole said about Mona Lisa, many dreams have come to your doorsteps. They remain there and they die there. I don't want the dream of our founding fathers just to remain there at the gates of potentiality, never implemented. Today, you want igniting actionable business insights, tremendous opportunities here. Look around, take risk, cross borders, find partners. And there are trillions and trillions of opportunities here. We are on the threshold of success. But it cannot be a successful enterprise if you leave this just to the leaders. If you leave this just to the diplomats. If you leave this just to the negotiators and to the officials. They need you. What we are doing is nothing strange, because the Charter of the United Nations said, thou shalt arrange thy relationship, cooperation in the region, and thou shalt report to us how you're going to live, how you're going to grow together, how you are going to cooperate together in order to manage the affairs of your region. And once you agree, ASEAN Charter, Once you agree, deposit your agreement, your charter, your founding statement to us, the UN. I am telling you now that the entire world is excited about us. And it has been deposited to them in New York. They are waiting for our success. Whether or not we will succeed and deliver on our promise, it's not up to governments, it's not up to the leaders. They will play their role, but the major role will have to be yours, the members of YPO, and those over the hum who refuse to fade away, members of WPO. I wish you all the best. Thank you very much. I was told that I'm supposed to be up here and wait for your questions. Where's Kuntik? I was told that you were going to be up here and stand next to me and... Yes.
Hello, Dr. Surin. Thank you for this very wonderful speech and keynote this morning. I'm Wei from YPO Malaysia. On the subject of ASEAN, we all notice that it is an enterprise with 10 countries that actually speak 10 languages. And that seems to be one of the greatest barriers of bringing people together, businesses together. Today, we use English as a medium of communication. However, when it comes to a lot of SMEs, as you have pointed out, to cross the border, there is a need to be able to understand the culture, the people, especially the language. There lies the greatest difficulties. And would there be a possibility to give policy recommendation to each ASEAN country where ASEAN languages could be chosen as an option for the second language? You see, we choose English as a second language, for example. And there is also a possibility to choose, let's say, Thai language as a second language or third language in the school. So over a period of time, there will be pockets of population in each country that will be proficient in languages of other ASEAN countries. So that will then promote that true integration of businesses and the people in the region. So I think it's important for this policy recommendation to reach every country, and the journey is a long journey, and if we foresee the state of ASEAN economic community in 30 years' time, in 50 years' time, I think with that, the new generation with the proficiency of ASEAN languages, apart from English, that is kind of commonly spoken by a small group of business people, I think that will really promote this. And secondly, it's also about the connectivity they talk about. One of the easiest ways to cross the border is actually to use e-commerce. But one of the greatest difficulty is about the connectivity of internet, because today, in order to kind of have a packet sent from, say, Malaysia to Thailand, you got to go to US and come back to Thailand, because this is how internet are actually interconnected. But until and unless there is an ASEAN-wide fiber optic and peering centers connecting each and every country directly, then we will have media, we have videos, we have e-commerce that flows around. That will then resolve a lot of the ASEAN kind of communication through e-commerce and the trade through e-commerce. The third thing, if you could comment, is also with regard to trade, there's a need to have clearance of the payment and the currency. And today, intertrade will still require intermediary like US dollars in order to clear the payment. How possible it is in the near future to have an ASEAN clearing house such that all the goods can be quoted in any currency, in rupiah, in baht, in ringgit, in Singapore dollar, whatsoever. And then there's a direct clearance through an ASEAN clearinghouse. So these are 3 areas. If you could comment, please. Thank you.
Oh, very difficult 3 areas. Should I answer? Yeah, okay. Well, I'll take yours first. The language. This charter says English is the working language of ASEAN. Even that is a problem. Meaning, in ASEAN meetings, you use English. Those who are not comfortable with English, bring your own interpreters. And they have to be whispering interpreters so that they don't complicate, other proceedings and what you call concentration of others listening to the direct speech in English. We realize that, but over half of ASEAN will be speaking Malay. Can that be one of the major languages of ASEAN, aside from English? On the proficiency of English, leaders realize that. And believe it or not, at a summit in New York with Mr. Obama in 2010, there was an appeal from the ASEAN leaders, help us with the English language. And Mr. Obama turned to Ms. Clinton and said, let's do it. And Ms. Clinton, in her all ingenuity, went to the Sultan of Brunei, you want to participate in this? And the Sultan of Brunei said, yes, $20 million for 5 years. So there are, quote unquote, English core volunteers on the landscape now from the Fulbright program and from Brunei to teach English to those communities and pockets of people who are still in need of English. Much, much more needs to be done. And I think if we have the English language in control, in place, it will help a great deal already. We are now, I think, our elites are speaking English more than our neighboring languages. But I think I agree with you, we need one common language, not one common currency. We need one common language that the majority of the people understand and speak. And right now, the language of commerce, language of technology, language of entertainment, language of information, language of education, it's English. If we can promote that and increase the proficiency, we'll do well. Thailand has to do a lot more because English is not Thailand's strength. Smiling is. E-commerce, well, I think that's the point. The technology is outside of our landscape. The investment in the production, in the promotion, in the research, in the innovation, including in information technology, is being done outside of our landscape. We need to do more. Maybe Singapore needs to do more. Malaysia needs to do more in order to make sure that all the engines of communication for e-commerce will grow here on this landscape. But the financial market people, the banking people, Kun Bantun is here, have already gone in this direction. They have set up their clearing facilities, what you're talking about, so that it can be done more easily than before, so that it can be settled among us and between us without having to go through banks in New York, banks in London, banks in Tokyo. We are doing, again, in the ASEAN way, step by step, incrementally, but we are going and moving in that direction, including integration of capital markets, including this cooperation and coordination of the banking sector. So I think, by the end of next year, when Malaysia is in the chair delivering ASEAN economic community, ASEAN community to the world, it is not going to be a perfect architecture. It will always be a work in progress. And all of you can take part in perfecting this architecture. Europe has been doing similar things, and they are still perfecting their union, and they have their problems, and they are trying to manage their problems. ASEAN will have to go through the same process, avoiding their mistakes, learning from their wrongs, but trying to emulate what they have done right. And I think that is what ASEAN is trying to do. By the way, we don't have any plan for an ASEAN one currency, because the European experiment has not convinced us that that is the right way to do it. And we have such a disparity among us, such a diversity among us. It's going to take us a long time to have one currency with confidence of all members that this currency is going to work for all of us. And yet, we have a monitoring office sitting in Singapore. As a result of that Chiang Mai initiative, which was born here, as a result of the financial crisis here in 1998, they met in Chiang Mai, the deputy ministers of finance, the governors of the central banks of all ASEAN countries, plus 3, Japan, Korea, and China. And they decided that East Asia needs to learn from this crisis. We need to manage our connectivity, our integration, which is higher than we thought we were. Higher than we thought we had. We are more integrated. That's why when the crisis came to Thailand, the next day it's Malaysia, the next day is Singapore, the next day is the Philippines, all the way to Korea. We have learned the lesson. So we set up this thing called this Chiang Mai initiative. Initially 120 billion US dollars, now 240 billion US dollars. Now the BRICS countries are emulating us, setting up similar fund. The first line of defense. If you have problem financially, economically, inside, current account deficit, too big, too much, you don't have to go directly to Washington. You have this first line of defense, first aid station, called the Chiang Mai Initiative, 240 billion US dollars. So we are perfecting, we are trying to manage that integration, which is going to expose each other to the weaknesses of each other, not only the strength of each other. We are not going to draw the best out of each. We are also exposed to the weakness of each. We have to manage that diversity, and ASEAN is doing that too, and the world is emulating us. What we have not done is the ASEAN Bank of Investment or East Asia Bank of Investment. The BRICS have gone that far, but they have followed us in this fund for emergency situation. So we are, improvising, we are moving along, and we are trying to live up to your expectation. And my point is, bring these kind of issues to the front. Bring them to the leaders. Bring them to... So far, you have been pretty much disengaged. I'm sorry to say that. So far, you have been uninterested bystanders. You are looking at this house being built, and you are waiting to move in. We have a saying in Thailand, when you build a house, you have to ask the people who will live in it. We have asked, but you have been rather passive. From now onward, this first summit of YPO, you will have to be engaged and stay engaged and try to improve upon this house together. Thank you.
Thank you. Second question.
Hi. It's a question and a calling, I think, to all the attendees today. My name is Pashri Pantamano. I'm Thai. And I'm the chair of Bangkok Now, or bnow.org. This year, we're doing a fantastic project called the Expat Entrepreneur Awards, where Fred is one of the judges on our panel. And I love what Dr. Surin has said about SME, 70% of the economy, and how we have to be more engaged. I don't know how to solve all the issues relating to ASEAN, but because we are recognizing entrepreneurs across Thailand for this year, I would like to put out, could we also take this to the next level for ASEAN next year with your support? I just want to put that out there as an element that could help build that extra 70% SMEs and populate and create more equity in the economy. So I just want to put that out, and if you're interested in a project, please come see me, or please talk with Fred, because he knows all about it too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, there will be losers and winners. I'm not saying that ASEAN is going to be good for everyone. ASEAN will be good for those who are prepared. ASEAN will be good for those who are competitive. ASEAN will be good for those who are willing to work hard in order to take the advantage of this landscape. But then each government will have to make the calculation. Which one needs competition? Which one needs help in the competition? Which one that would need support in the transformation of their business? We are not going to be ready 100%, every one of us, before we go into the community. There will be losers and winners, but governments will have to make that decision. But we cannot stay closed. We cannot stay inside, hide behind the walls forever. Competition is coming. ASEAN is only a halfway house on the road to globalization. If ASEAN doesn't open all these economies to each other to increase our competitiveness with the rest of the world, WTO will. There are enough instruments in the WTO that will pry open our coveted markets. If WTO doesn't do it, the force of globalization will do it. There is no way to escape. So you can't wait until everyone is ready. You will have to come in and join and prepare yourself to compete. That's the only way that you can grow. I'm sure there are complaints. I'm sure countries that are lagging behind are saying, slow down, we can't cope. But if you wait until everybody is ready, and forget about that vision, forget about that dream, forget about that architecture that we have been building for the past 4.5 decades, we are not going to be competitive with the rest of the world. We will stay weak, divided, and not delivering to our people who are waiting for better jobs, better opportunities, and better quality of life. The middle class of ASEAN is growing. By the way, 130 billion US dollars coming into ASEAN as a foreign direct investment, 70% of that comes into the service sector. Meaning what? Meaning the quality of life is improving. Meaning the middle class wants more comfort, wants more services to ease their lives, education, health, telecommunication, transport, logistics. All these things are necessary for the growth of ASEAN and for the prosperity of the entire landscape of ASEAN. That's why 70% of foreign direct investment coming into ASEAN comes into the service sector. Very interesting and has implications for the future. Yes.
Dr. Surin, my name is Gulu Lalwani from Royal Phuket Marina in Phuket. I have to say I was most impressed with your keynote address, and I see you have a wealth of knowledge that you've gained over the years as Secretary General, and I think if you start a consultancy for all the businesses, including the YPO, WPO,
I'm looking for a job.
I'm
looking for a job now.
I genuinely believe not only my company will sign up, I'm sure most of the YPOs, WPOs will sign up to contribute annual contribution to get advice from you, because you have so much wealth of experience and enthusiasm and energy. I think you're too young to retire. So you should really...
I'm joining the YPO now.
No, I'm sincere. I think your experience will help all the businesses.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your kind words. But Let me just say this before the next question. ASEAN and East Asia needs champions. Much like in Europe, when they began back in 1951-52 as common market, they had people like Jean Monnet, they had people like Robert Schuman, who in and out of government service kept on championing the idea of Europe. Now, without the towering leadership like we had in the past, East Asia and ASEAN need champions for integration. And I'm trying to play that role. Because I think without pushing and driving, without propelling that idea forward, without the convergence of these diverse opinions of which direction East Asia should be going, East Asia will be punching below our weight. As I said, ASEAN alone, if it were a country, it's number 7 GDP ranking. But we are still punching below our weight. We can do more. We can achieve more. But we need the entire East Asia to come together. And what can you do? China and Japan, they are not talking to each other now, except at the ASEAN stage. Japan and Korea, they are not communicating well. I am glad that Mr. Xi Jinping is going to India tonight, so that China and India can get on with the potentiality that exists between these two emerging giants of the world, not of Asia, of the world. And if they can cultivate and harvest their potentiality between them, and I agree with Professor Mahbubani sitting here, your next speaker in the afternoon, East Asia is going to benefit from that relationship. But ASEAN has served as that forum, that mechanism of power plays, and I would say we have earned to ourselves the convening power. None other organization in the region has that power. When we call a meeting, they come. And more want to come. Because we have proven to the world that we have achieved certain level of success. Our GDPs, our SMEs, I mean, our per capita income, our middle income people, our rather steady growth through the years. So, ASEAN and East Asia need champions and supporters propelling this vision into the future. If there's money in that, I would welcome. I'm not thinking of setting up a consulting firm, but I think we need to nurture that dream forward. Whether or not there is any income in that, I think for the dreams of the leaders of ASEAN, we are bonded together with sacrifices and cooperation for the prosperity, for the blessing of liberty and freedom for our peoples and our posterity. I think we need to keep that dream alive. And I want to be that, championing that cause. Thank you. She left. I think she didn't wait for my answer. Yeah? Do we have more time, Kuntik?
There's one more question there, yes.
Good morning, Dr. Surin. My name is Chayawat from Thailand chapter. Another hat that I have is the chairman of Southeast Asia Association of Business Aviation. Talking about the connectivity, I think many of us used business jet or private jet to travel, to make our business doing more effectively. But one of the sky block or road block that you you like to call is it's so difficult to get the permits from one or from a few countries in ASEAN. For example, if you want to go to Indonesia, you may want to have 3 days lead time to get the permits, which if you want to go to Singapore, it takes only 3 hours. So I don't know if in ASEAN there is any conversation or discussion on this open sky in ASEAN so that we can unlock this door so that we can have a better accessibility via the business jet or private jet, which is critical for the future for doing the business in ASEAN. Thank you.
If I can open it up, would you give me one jet to fly around promoting?
You're most welcome.
Thank you. That's what I meant by each ASEAN member state has to deliver on their promises. There has been an agreement on open sky for each other. Ratification has been made, but implementation or implementing legislation in some countries have not been, or even regulations, even ministerial orders, even departmental regulations have not been affected. That's exactly what I meant by delivering on their promise or promises. Once you are committed, you deliver. But with the existence of that agreement signed, ratified, but not implemented, it has already given people like yourself and your business some leverage. How? You can always appeal to that decision of the leaders. That you may not be ready as a bureaucracy, as an agency competent in this particular area, but your leaders have already agreed that we shall deliver open sky to each other. So you can see low-cost airlines now, I don't want to mention any names, are flying from a regional airport to a regional airport of another country. Not just capital to capital. By appealing to this existing agreement, not yet implemented, because not all have done their, what you call, enabling legislation, or changed their laws, or changed their ministerial orders, but the existence of it has already given some of these companies some leverage, and they have been able to open up many regional airports for aviation. So I hope that big and small markets will compete with each other to open up more, quicker decision-making process, and more effective cooperation and coordination among them and between them, so that ASEAN is one sky. ASEAN as a tourist attraction or tourist destination is already being marketed as one destination. Meaning coming into ASEAN, anywhere, any capital, any resort town, resort island, you will have access to others. It's being marketed as one destination. I agree with you. If we can deliver on that, and I'm sure it's going to come. And this is what I mean, ASEAN needs leadership. This is what I mean, and ASEAN needs your involvement. You can serve as that lever of pressure, asking for more ease so that you can do better business, you can do better connectivity. And I will continue to push for implementations of agreements already made. And for the AEC, we have already made about 85% of major pieces of legal infrastructure that are needed in order to complete that AEC. The question and the challenge is in the implementation. That's what I meant. Thailand has to deliver under this special circumstances, when they don't have to wait long in order to bring an ASEAN agreement to the National Assembly. Before, many agencies are working on one issue, and they couldn't agree, and they couldn't schedule the legislation or the agreement into the National Assembly or into the Parliament. Now, everything, unity of command, get it done. If every ASEAN country can do that, deliver on the promise, more opportunities will be opened up, more space will be open for you, and we need you to come and identify that niche, that space that each and every one of you want. And ASEAN will respond. Thank you.
Anybody has any more questions in the room? We still have about 10 minutes. Well, maybe I'll ask a question, Dr. Surin, in that case. You encourage SMEs to cross borders. My question is, how can these SMEs have both the capabilities and the capital to expand in markets they're not familiar with, or sometimes most of these small organizations are not generating enough cash in order to expand on their own? So what can we do, or what can ASEAN do in order to facilitate all these SMEs crossing borders and doing business in the neighboring countries?
I think each country needs to promote, to support, to guide, to advise, to encourage their own SMEs to cross borders. Each entity inside attracting foreign investment will have to do at least 25%, 30% of the job, encouraging their own potential investors to go outside. They need new facility, they need new fund, they need support, they need new window in the commercial banks, in the Export-Import Exim Bank. They need entity that would go out and identify opportunities and space for the services, for the goods that are being produced at home. If Japan can have Jethro, if Singapore can have International Enterprise Singapore, I think that's what it's called, going around the world looking for opportunities so that business in Singapore can come and take advantage of that new opportunity. Each and every one of the ASEAN countries will have to do it. And that is a special instrument, special fund, special units, supporting, encouraging, leading, effectively, seriously, passionately. Not just leading a delegation to visit the market in Indonesia, come back and said, we have done it. Not enough. Not just trying to get SMEs together and let's go look at the market in Vietnam and come back and said, we have done it. Not doing that to Myanmar and back, but engaged, stay there, doing research, bring back statistics, information, analysis of the market, much like Jethro has been doing for Japanese SMEs, much like International Enterprise Singapore has been doing for Singapore businesses. We can't complain if we haven't done that much to promote our SMEs. And we know for sure, this is a very important statistics. Of all the 2.5, 2.6 trillion trade that we do among ourselves and with the world, the 10 of us doing trade with each other, only 24% of that figure. Compared to NAFTA, Canada, US, and Mexico, it's 68-70% of trade among the three of them, the rest, 25% with the world. Europe, 28 countries, 87% trade among 28 of them. Only 20% with the rest of the world. The volume is big, but percentage is only 20%. ASEAN, to be a successful, integrated market and community, giving opportunities for big and small, small and medium people. We have to increase that figure. That figure is not going to be increased from 24% to 28% to 30% by the year 2020 to 35 to 40% by the year 2030. It will not be increased unless SMEs get into the action. The secret is with the SMEs. So each government will have to promote SMEs out. Welcome SMEs in. That's when you live up to the potentiality of this enterprise. So far, we have been quite reluctant and restrained because of the language, because of the lack of information, because of the confidence, because of the lack of understanding of diversity of ASEAN. This is a very diverse landscape. But in order to become one community, integrated, competitive, equitable, and seamlessly connected with the rest of the world, we need to strengthen this landscape. And SMEs is our key. SMEs are our answer. Thank you.
Yes. One last question from Rafiq.
I was very impressed by your passion and your commitment to what you have done.
There must be a but.
No, there isn't a but. The issue is that you wish to see this push through at the SME level. The problem with SMEs, if I may just make a comment, is that there are 4 areas where they have real issues. First is the business capability. The second is lack of structural strength. The third is financial lack of resources. And finally is education in latest technology. So to me, I think one of the big issues that you face in ASEAN is that you haven't strengthened your own SMEs. And so before you start talking about cross-border SME activity, I don't know how much work has been done within the Thai economy on understanding the needs of the SMEs and how you see each of the different ASEAN countries strengthening the SME base before we can start talking about cross-border. Because otherwise, this whole enterprise will be at the high level of large businesses, which will further depress the SME sector. Globalization has not helped SMEs. ASEANization may not either. So what is it that can be done to prevent the decimation of SMEs? Because I don't see that ASEAN is going to improve the position of SMEs.
Well, thank you very much. But there are some success stories of SMEs. I think Fred Mowat is one success. His small business is coffee. I don't know how many other countries that he has branches, but certainly Indonesia. And I think Black Canyon has 20 plus in Indonesia alone. I think the message is the landscape is not perfectly wide open. But the landscape can be pried open more if you have the determination, if you have the risk, and if your governments are willing to give you the support. Yes, technology, yes, funding, Yes, the structure of it, a lot of them are family business. But maybe it is time to use this big drama of ASEAN as a backdrop of change and transformation inside. I agree with you. But again, each government is not going to be able to completely help all 100% of SMEs. Never. But those who have the audacity to cross borders, have the experience, have the connections, can cross, can lead the way, and can certainly prove that there are opportunities and greener grass on the other side of the mountains. And I hope that is your mission. That's YPO's ASEAN. Your grandfather, your great-grandfather, your uncles have done their job. You are the young president's organization, ASEAN. If you don't take that risk, who will? If you can't convince your government to support you, to help you, to guide you, to advise you, who will? Are we building this landscape, this house, this architecture for SMEs from Europe? That's not the intention, although it is open for all. SMEs from Japan, that's not the intention, but that's open for them too. SMEs from America, they are welcome. But the primary purpose of this architecture is for all of us, for all of you. And if you're not taking this opportunity, you can't blame others coming in to take advantage of this one integrated market, 600 million plus 2.5, 2.6 trillion combined GDP and growing. You can't complain. So governments have to be committed. Business sector has to be committed. Young business people have to be committed. Only then that we can hope to be prosperous and successful as we could, as we should be, as we aspire to be. And that's the charge for all of you. That's the mission for the young and the restless. I am passionate, yes. But I hope I'm not being cut loose to be passionate only by myself. I want you to come along on this journey. It's a long road ahead, but it is not impossible for us to complete it together. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your very inspirational keynote speech, Dr. Surin. It's a wake-up call for all of us. It's time that